Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show, the Beautifully Bruised and CPS show. I am your host, Latrika Jones. I thank you so very much for tuning in today to this Friday, this Freedom Friday. God has blessed us to see another day, and I don't take it for granted. And I think knowledge is power, and iron sharpens iron. So, again, anybody know that tunes into our show that anytime I start my segments, I always give credit and honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because without him, I would not be sitting in front of you today. He will allow me to overcome some of my hardest challenges in life, but he gave me the strength to endure. And I told God, if you know what, if you can trust me to use what I've been through to help others come out of what you've allowed me to come out of, my story will be for your glory. So again, that is why I take it as an honor, as a privilege to be in front of you today. Today, again, it's Friday. It's Freedom Friday. So whatever yours may look like, I'm just blessed that we're able to come back on this platform and to share what we know to try to help each one of us to be better. And with that being said, on this Friday show, I have a very special guest. Oh my God. She's a very special person. When I met her instantly, I knew, by our conversation that I felt a great spirit with her. And I felt like she would definitely be someone that I could bring onto this platform to help shed some light on things that people really, I think, don't know. To be honest and frank with you, it was a time that I wasn't aware of some of these options and services that are available. And they are tremendously helpful with a child that's in this school, in our school system. We know due to COVID, so much has changed, right? I mean, things are not what they once were. So again, I think it's so important for us to be parents to make sure we're utilizing these services, because at the end of the day, it doesn't do nothing but help to make your child better. But again, I think a lot of people might not be fully aware of these services at time if you don't speak up. So again, I think the words say people lack from the perish from the lack of knowledge. So again, that's why I think she is such a blessing, honestly, and so educated. So without any further ado, I will go right ahead, and I'd like to welcome Mrs. Jocelyn Mixon to our show today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jocelyn. So again, I know you have a plethora of knowledge. So I just wanted to ask, could you share some of your experience that you do have with education, and how long has you been in the educational system?
Wow. If I go back to the beginning, I've worked in education probably 40 plus years. In some, I know I look young.
Years.
In
Wow.
some area that I started out like a yard supervisor, peer tutor, I was
Uh-huh.
tutoring at the elementary school,
Wow.
then teacher's aide, then a teacher at the child care center and so forth. I've been an educator in the classroom and or administrator. I've worked as an admin designee, probably the combination of the two over 30 years.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. So you are a plethora of knowledge, and you know it from different sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Oh
As,
my God.
as both an educator and a parent.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You see it from both sides, so that's to me even like a double, triple threat in so many ways, because you know it from different, like you said, sides of the spectrum. Can I ask you, Jocelyn, with say for example, if you have children that's gifted and talented or dealing with special needs, I know that in the school system here, we're both located in Texas, but if I'm not mistaken, Jocelyn, do you also have connections to California as well?
Yes, actually, that's where my educational experience is from. I taught in the public school system for over 30 years in California. I've recently moved to Texas. I've been here for 5 years,
Wow.
and I've worked in the educational system here um, probably 2 years.
Okay. Okay. So about 2 years. Okay. With that being said, can I ask you, can you tell me, just thinking about it, is there a major difference that you see with Texas compared to California as far as the services? Because I'm sure it is in some kind of way.
Well, we are all, I guess, provided the same services, but the
Okay.
way that those services are implemented have looked different here in Texas
Mhm.
than they did when I was in California. However, I just think that probably if I went back to California and was looking at the system, it might look the same because
Really?
it's different, different time frames.
Different
I
time
mean,
frame.
even as I was in education,
Mhm.
from the time that I started, and by the time that I exited, there was a huge change in the educational system.
Wow. Um, with that being said, can you tell me as far say for example, with the IEP and the 504 services, say a parent that's watching that may have a child that's in, it doesn't have to necessarily be special needs or the gifted and talented. You might have a child that has a disability, right?
Correct.
Um, that may require some type of special accommodation. So, with that being said, are there any type of services that the school system is supposed to offer children that deals with disabilities, special needs, or any of those type of services?
Absolutely, and this is throughout the United States. There is the IP program, which is an individual educational plan, and that plan is basically a legal document for students who need special education outside of the general educational program. And
Okay.
then there is the 504 plan, as you mentioned, and that stems from the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1963, I believe it
Wow.
was. And that plan is for students with disabilities within it provides accommodations within the general educational program.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And let me explain a little bit about the 504 plan. It has over time, I think, become the catch-all for
Hmm.
certain students
Hmm.
who don't necessarily fall under the Rehabilitation or Disabilities Act. It
Hmm.
was intended for students with physical impairments or mental limitations.
Really?
But I've seen actually in both the IEP and in the 504 areas programming, schools literally send kids that may have behavioral plans that could, if it's infringing upon their educational progress, then there could be some mental or physical, such as hyperactivity, um,
Right.
involved. But
Right.
I've seen over the years that they just throw students who really just need structure,
Right.
boundaries,
Right.
and some care. I've seen them throw them in those programs as well.
Wow, that is so interesting because that was something that, um, since you said that, it's making me think about another circumstance that occurred where, where say I had a parent that was saying, because of their children may have ADHD or, like you say, need structure in some kind of way, and they was basically going through a time where they would just get phone calls to say, "Hey, he's been suspended. Can you come and get him?
Right.
We have to remove him. We can't deal with him." So, with that being said, do you think, from your experience, that the 504 is there anything that kind of caters or accommodate rather to a child that may be dealing with those type of conditions where those that the IP or the 504, is that something that can the teachers no longer just say come get them? Would they at that point, have to do something to try to work with the child versus sending them home early or not allowing them to come to school?
Well, first of all, they've never legally been able to say, just come get them.
Hmm.
They
Wow.
not legally.
Not
They
legal.
do.
That's
They
good.
do. They do. However, legally, if the child is interrupting the educational environment, they
Mhm.
can be removed from that environment.
Okay.
But the schools just can't toss them home and say, now this is your problem. There has to be some remedy to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
With the Also with these plans, I've also noticed that parents are not usually a part of the planning process. And
Really?
many times in my personal experience, which is when I got in kind of really involved. The general ed teacher is not involved in
Hmm.
the planning. I have literally gone to meetings, and I'm kind of like jumping around, but I've gone to IEP meetings
Mhm.
where the parent is supposed to show up. I have not seen the IEP plan, nor had I been consulted
Right.
as the actual general ed teacher
Wow.
for input. So the school psychologist, maybe the school nurse, the principal, assistant principal, and excuse me, perhaps the district special ed director. They will look at what they view is the problem,
Really?
and they will come up with the plan, and then they want you to sign off on it. And well, I've always been probably the conscientious objector.
Well, how can they make their determination without involving the?
Exactly. Not only not involving the teacher, but not involving the parent.
Absolutely.
So
Ab-
my advice to parents, do not ever sign any legal federal, it's a federal document.
Federal. Wow.
Don't sign anything, one, without, I say, an advocate.
Wow.
Don't go to these meetings without advocates because they'll have a lot of information that you may not understand.
Right.
You are allowed time to review the documents before signing.
Right.
And I just wouldn't go if I don't know. I wouldn't go without an advocate.
To
With
be able to, that makes so much sense. I'm glad you shared that as well, Jocelyn, because a lot of parents may be asking, okay, is this a fee that you have to pay for these type of services, or the IP or the 504 rather? Is that something that is automatically? Mhm.
no, there's no fee for an IEP or a 504 plan. As a matter of fact, if anyone can recommend a child for an IEP or 504 plan in writing, if they're, I mean, it could be the parent, it could be um, the suggestion of the pediatrician, at the
Oh,
suggestion of the pediatrician, or maybe if you're taking your child to a therapist, the
right.
therapist could recommend that they be tested.
Okay.
If there are any tests involved, the school is obligated to pay for those tests if there is a cost attached.
That is some good information that I think is so useful, because a lot of times people do, want to reach out, but they're afraid there's some type of a, fee associated with it or something they can't afford. So basically, you just explain how they could go by getting and putting their children in these services, which are very useful and helpful. Um, and with that being said, I also want to ask you too, Jacqueline, from all of your experience, say for example, because this show is based on families that are dealing with CPS.
Mhm.
Maybe grandparents, maybe siblings or aunties or uncles, whoever the case may be, and they have a family member that the child has been taken into a foster care, or they're in a foster home and going to and fro different foster homes. So um, do you have anything that you could also help enlighten us by, if you have a child that's in the system that's in a foster with a foster parent under CPS care? Like, is there something that they can do when they versus them? I know they can't do anything while they're in the foster care system, but say if they're coming back home, if it's some type of challenges that they're dealing with, is this a service that you think they can also help them from all they've been through, like with CPS?
Well, first of all, pray for them babies.
Yes, Lord.
Um,
Seriously, absolutely.
and actually, I'd like to correct something. If your parental rights have not been terminated,
Mhm.
you have a say even when your child is in CPS. So
Really? I didn't know
yes, ma'am.
that.
If you have a right, you can even request that your child to be removed from one home if you sense that something going on or it's not benefiting your child in some kind of way. You can make a request. Now, the systems that be will act as the authority,
Right.
but
Like they
they
do.
they
Yes.
do not have ultimate authority. They do not. But they'll trick you into believing that they do.
Make you think that.
Now,
Wow.
like I said, I've come from California,
Hmm.
and I have had students who, of course, in all of the many years, I've had students who were actually in foster care.
Hmm.
Um, and the foster parents and the social worker will act as if they're the ultimate authority. But again, if your parental rights have not been terminated, you have a say. I will
Wow.
caution you to always put your requests or your comments in writing and
Right.
submit it to everyone. The
Right.
school, because see, the school system knows you have rights.
See, that's good. Talk about it.
So submit it to not only the social worker, the foster care families, but also submit it to the school system. Because if you submit something to the school system,
Hmm.
even if it's a concern you have about the foster care,
Right.
as mandated reporters, the school system also have to be looking out for whatever your concern is. They
Right.
have to be cautious and careful and on alert. But I would put it in writing. I wouldn't just talk to my social worker, complain to the social worker, argue with the social worker. But your if your rights have not been terminated, then you do have a
Shouldn't
say.
say so. Oh
You
my
have a say.
God. I never knew that. See, a lot of times, like you say, sometimes like I said, due to my previous encounter years ago, thank God, but I do believe that it's bullying tactics that's taking place.
Absolutely. We see it today in all of the TikTok movies. People that hold positions of authority believe they hold ultimate authority until they run into someone who has the information. And you were trying to quote the scripture is Hosea 4:6 that says, "My people are destroyed
That's it.
for
That's it.
the lack of knowledge." And that's usually as far as we go when we quote that scripture. But right after that, it says, because you reject
Mm.
knowledge.
Oh, that's so good. That
So
is so good.
we have to not, we have to receive the
Right.
information when people are trying to give us the information
That's
and
right.
not just receive it, but then immediately try to apply it.
Apply it. Absolutely. Oh God, Jocelyn, that is such a nugget and a gem, excuse me, that you dropped. And that's why I just like to add this in here, that I'm so thankful for this platform with Attorney Vince and the producer Grace, because that's to me, their vision. Again, is to bring on people that have personally been affected by CPS, or people like yourself that's educated and know the do's and the don'ts that a lot of parents don't know, that is pertaining, to the educational system and things of that sort. So, oh my God, I'm so glad that you shared that. Um, from what you just said, and again, we won't be. This won't be a long segment today. I just again want to bring Jocelyn on. Why? Thank God she was available to share. A lot of this information, because I know for a lot of us, children have just entered back into school. And so it's a new year, new teachers, new environment. I also think it's important to share. I had one guest that told me that her child actually was CPS. That's where her child was also picked up from the school. So again, and if your child may be dealing with a disability, whether it's ADHD, I don't know, whatever what they say the situation might be. Sometimes if you can implement some of these services, that's free. You don't have to pay for. Jocelyn just shared. You might can get it from your the child's doctor, from the therapist, pediatrician, or whomever that can have the credentials to make their recommendation. These are some services that your kids can use to help them get a time out. Even I know personally that with the services, sometimes if your child may get overstimulated and they begin to be triggered or start acting out in class because of it, sometimes these particular services, they can have accommodations where they may have a aide or someone that can step in to pull the child out for a little while to give them that accommodation that they need. So I think it's so very important that these services are available. Also, Jocelyn, if there's anything additional that you want to share that we haven't spoke of already, but I was wanting to ask you honestly, that is there anything else that you think, if you do have a child that's dealing with a disability, where they might need to get out to take their medicine, or again, special needs, whatever the case might be, or CPS, is there any other type of service or things a parent should be aware of? This is what I want to ask you with the IP. Um, services, is it only a limited meetings that you have? Can you at any time and say, hey, I'm having some concerns with my child, I like to schedule an IP? Can a parent ask for additional meetings? Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
they
Mhm.
have to hold an annual IEP meeting.
Okay.
But you, again, in writing, may request an IEP, and within 30 days is usually the time they have to accommodate your request.
Okay.
You can, and there's so much information, and so this is the reason why I retired and then started Born to Teach You LLC, was because I would like to work as really a liaison between the educational system and families and other stakeholders, to help inform and bridge the gap between authentically, not just
Absolutely.
in word,
Right.
but indeed, actually. Um,
Absolutely.
Speaking of, your child does not have to be in any of these programs.
Hmm.
Let's start there. The general education system has federal rules, your state has rules, your district has rules and regulations,
Hmm.
your county, because your schools fall inside of a county,
Right.
they have educational rules and regulations. We can
Okay.
help you learn those and how to implement those or apply those to your situation. Just the literally here in Texas, we're in the second week of school. Not even
So
haven't
yes.
today. We'll complete
Right.
the second week of school, and I literally last week, the very first week of school, had a family who requested the literature anthology for their second grader to be sent home so that the family could help the child with the stories,
Hmm.
whatever. And the teacher, in writing, informed the parents that they could not do that. And so, serving as the advocate, I emailed. She said that she consulted her principal and the resource teacher
Hmm.
and requested it. And they said that they can't send these books home.
Really?
So I emailed the teacher, serving
My,
as an advocate, and indicated that the word cannot means that you lack the ability or that it is not permitted to do so. I
wow.
said, so can you please explain that to me in context? And while you're coming up with or formulating your explanation, keep in mind, and I cited the educational code that states not only can parents request the books, any supplemental materials that the school is using,
Hmm.
they can also request, and most parents don't know this, they can request the teacher's lesson plans.
Really?
They can request the teacher's addition of whatever subject they're studying, science,
Right.
math.
Right. Right.
They can do all of that. Then
Hmm.
I requested a Zoom meeting. And as I anticipated, when I logged into the link that they sent me, because they would have to accommodate me as their advocate and the family, if we can't get to the site, they had to
Right.
um, give us a Zoom meeting. But
Right.
I anticipated that the principal would be there. But when I tell you, when she logged on, she was the person talking and says that, you're really the first person who's requested this. And we just need to, I guess, do their checkout form.
Right.
We'll
Right.
get that to you at the end of the day or at the latest by tomorrow. And yes, the next day, those books were sent home
My God.
however, had I not intervened,
Right. Right. That's good.
they would have used their position of authority to make a family believe they could not have these resources they were requesting.
That is a great example why I do believe and I know that knowledge is power. So it seemed like to me, by you being the representation, basically they just couldn't tell her anything
Right.
in so many words.
At
Like
all.
you, they can't. And I've always said, if a person know what you know, they can't come at you any kind of way,
They will not.
and they will not. And along with that, oh my God, see, that's a great example, because I know personally, it just seemed like sometimes instead of you as the parent getting full access of options that can be available to help your child, sometimes if they feel you don't know, they will give you minimal information. So
And that's what the IEPs and the 504 plans come to, because you, as the parent, may not have any information. So you're trusting the
Right.
educational system to actually be working for your child's benefit.
Right.
But usually it's for their own convenience.
Ooh, that's good. That is so good. Oh my God. And I know that's true because I've experienced it myself, and I know others that shared that same experience that they received. It was almost like I'm gonna do enough just to say it was done,
Yes.
but it might have not been as effective as it could have been, as far as, if you having someone like yourself, it seemed like you would be that person to make sure that this child is getting everything within their means to have access to, that they need to be successful. Speaking of that, Jocelyn, I had recently a parent that was saying that her child seemed to be also someone that, due to his, might have been dealing with a special condition. It just seemed like the school kept kicking him out, and she just, she was just a nervous wreck. Honestly, she just didn't know what to do. Who could she speak with? Somebody that will kind of help speak on her behalf, or let her know, what the school can do or what they can't do. And somebody like yourself, just to be that beacon of light, honestly, when you're so confused, and you feel bad because you're getting these multiple calls saying your child is causing all this, and it might not even be trouble, it might be just whatever that child is dealing with, and that teacher at a certain point, like I said you just have to come pick them up. And now you're saying, now by law that's not an option, so.
No, especially if they haven't, because outside, again, outside the IEP or any special needs or disability program, there is general education. There are accommodations just in general. They should be working with a team of people to come up with a discipline plan.
That's right,
And
absolutely.
discipline, not punishment. Those are two different words.
Totally
Discipline
different words. Yes.
requires there to be a lesson attached to
Yes,
it.
absolutely.
It is not the school system, and they've gotten it twisted. It's not their job to punish their child ever.
Wow.
So anything that they do, any corrective measure that they do for poor behavior, unacceptable behavior, because I refuse to say bad, because when God created me, he said, and it was good. In some translation, he said, and it was very good. So I'm already good
That's
by
right.
design, by creation.
Come on.
So when you are going to discipline me in a school system, because it's my mommy's job or grandmama, whoever the guardian is, to punish me, let's say, but in
Wow.
school, there has to be a lesson attached, an
Mm.
articulable lesson. So after you've given that discipline to that child should be able to articulate what the lesson was in that
Correct.
plan. If the child cannot articulate, then you are, you know, um, reinforcing the lesson, you are revisiting the lesson, you are reteaching. It should be a lesson.
Right.
And once that child can articulate what that lesson was, then you can place an expectation on the child
Right.
that he would follow through with the lesson
That's good.
regarding his behavior.
Correct. That is so good.
It should be in writing.
That's
There
right.
should be goals. They should be. This is the other thing. Let me tell you this. When your
Okay.
child even has an IEP plan or 504 plan, most
Hmm.
parents don't do this. There has to be a tracking of their progress. What strategies did the teacher or special services use in this time frame?
Hmm. Hmm.
Revisit, did it work? If it did not work, then what strategy are you going to use next for this time period?
Right.
There should be steps, but there should be documentation. So if
That's.
I walk into your office and my child is struggling academically or
Hmm.
behaviorally,
Hmm.
you should have documentation. This date, the next date, what did you do? How did the child respond?
Hmm.
And what was the outcome? If they don't have documentation, they're not doing their job.
Oh my God, that is so good. So basically, they just can't. Okay, just to make sure I'm processing what you're saying, they should have a paper trail, basically,
Absolutely.
a paper trail showing you what are they implementing to help treat. whatever the concerns are. Let me ask you this, Jocelyn. So if they don't have anything to back up what they're, proving what they're doing, what happens at that point? Do you just have to schedule another meeting, or is there something that you would do speaking to those teachers or whomever one on one?
Well, it's the whole system should be involved, and not just the school system. There are other stakeholders. You know how children behave affects the businesses in your area. We got to get everybody involved. However, if they
Right.
don't, I just got through this past school term,
Hmm.
and we settled after I went to several meetings with this school in California because they have to Zoom me in to
Wow.
all of the meetings. So I still work with my clients in California.
Okay.
We had to take it to an attorney.
Wow.
It never made it to the court date because the school, it actually was a charter school, ended up settling. And part of that settlement was to put this particular child, who was actually a special needs child that they villainized.
Really?
So be very careful because once you start um, holding the system accountable, they're instead of saying, you know what, hey, yeah, let's work together to make this work for this student, they go on the defensive, as
Mhm.
if you're indicting them in the beginning, and that's not what's happening. We just want you really to do your job.
Really to do your job. Exactly.
And
That's pretty much what I was saying.
they
Something
had
right.
So
Right.
the outcome of that negotiation, which I was a part of, was they had to pay for a private school. There's a school in California in a certain area where it's for autistic children.
Hmm.
And so they have to pay. The charter school now has to pay for those accommodations, all of his therapies outside, OT, excuse me, whatever that
Wow.
child, they have to pay. And because we lost a year,
Hmm.
they have to pay for a tutor, a one-on-one tutor who comes to the house after school. They have to pay for that tutor for a year.
So basically, if they're not doing what they say they're going to do or supposed to do,
Yes,
they can obviously lose a lawsuit.
absolutely.
So
But
by law, they have to do these things. If not, oh my God.
we
See, I think
okay,
a lot of parents don't know that. I
they
really
don't.
do. They don't know that they have to do that. This is
They
law.
don't. And I believe that if
Wow.
parents, this is what I want to do. I want to not only advocate for, but I advocate for while equipping the families with information so that they can help their children be successful in the educational system.
Absolutely.
I believe that if parents, families, the community
The community,
had
right?
the information and was holding the educational system as a group of
Mm,
people, not individuals, we have to start somewhere,
right.
holding them accountable, I believe that the teachers would be better.
Mm,
Therefore, we're getting better instruction,
right.
and then we can ask for, and I'm an advocate for paying those teachers more money
Absolutely. They deserve it. They,
because the scores would come up. You can
hmm.
get more funding, you get more grants, um, and it would be a lot less stress on the teacher. Because I advocate for both sides because I've seen both sides.
You've seen both sides. And so
Um,
you worked on both sides because you worked
I've worked
right.
on both sides, and
That's good.
teachers are thrown under the bus when there is a shaking by a parent. They try to plug the holes instead of fixing the system.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe if we encourage them by holding them accountable according to the law,
Mhm.
the teachers would be better. They just would be better. And
Right.
then the teachers could demand more money because the scores would be higher.
Wow. Yeah, because it seemed like, I hate to say that here, it's a saying where you get what you pay for. And I'm not saying that you don't have a passion for what you're doing, because some people naturally just has a gift and know how to bring it. But I do know normally if it's something that inspires you, an
Mhm.
initiative or something to get you more engaged, that you normally see more of the person. You know what I'm saying? So, but I do think teachers are underpaid. I do. I truly.
Absolutely.
I've always thought that.
It is the second hardest job on the face of the earth. Parenting is the first hardest.
Oh yeah, that's number one.
We don't get rid of them after a year. They keep coming back to the house. But
That's true. You
teaching, it should literally be the highest paid industry in the world,
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
it is not.
Mm-hmm. That needs to change as well because they
It
do
really does.
so much. Absolutely. So, oh my gosh, Jocelyn, we're almost at the end of our segment. I normally, since you dropped so many gems and nuggets that I do believe that can be so helpful to parents that's watching our show. Like I say, you dealing if you have a child that's dealing with whether they have a disability, whether it's something that that there is a special needs or some type of special accommodations that you're not aware of, that these services that Jocelyn is sharing with us, it will help your child in the long run. The child or the teachers are, they all have to come together with some type of game plan and hopefully to bring some positive resolutions to help your children to be successful in their educational learning journey. So with that being said, Jocelyn, before we get ready to close out this segment, is there anything else that you would like to share? I want to also, before we close out, give you an opportunity to share if you have any contact information in case we have other, parents or listeners that wants to have more questions about this topic and want to know want to get in contact with you because I know you say you still work in Texas as well as California. So I would love for you to share your information of your contact information rather. But before you do, is there anything else that you think that parents should be aware of, whether it's dealing with a CPS case? And matter of fact, that's something I definitely do want to ask you before we close out. Is there any type of advice or encouragement that you would like to continue to share for families that may be dealing with CPS cases? Just to encourage them, give them some type of encouragement.
Well, know that if you're in CPS situation, your parental rights haven't been terminated. You still have rights.
Right. That's
You
good.
still have a voice. Use your voice.
That's good.
And if you don't know what to say or what to do, reach out. Again, one of the hardest thing, especially for people of color, is to ask for help. And I think that we all need help sometimes.
We do.
So ask for help. And there are people out there. You can contact me at Born to Teach You. One, the
Oh,
number one,
yes. And then we're showing your information on the
at
bottom. I'm sorry.
Gmail, yeah, at gmail.com. And what I've tried to do is gather resources. I'm also working in Oklahoma, in the state of
Oh,
Oklahoma,
wow. Okay.
moving into Atlanta, the Georgia area. I would like to build a database of resources for people in their areas. So when
Okay.
people call me and ask me for help, I try to connect them with people in their particular city or in their county.
Right.
So I can get to work on finding who could help you near you.
That's so smart. Because
So, and it doesn't always,
everybody's not in Texas, like you say. You will.
everyone's not, I'm very well versed in California, probably more so than here, but
Right.
I'm getting there. I'm
Right.
getting there.
Right.
I would help you find resources, and don't be afraid of asking for help because you think there's going to be a cost attached to it. One of the things that I want to do with my business is create a fund
Mm-hmm.
so that when there's actually a cost, especially when you need an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
that those funds don't have to come out of your pocket.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
That is my ultimate dream because literally most parents will give up because they don't have the resources to fight for their babies.
I have seen that and heard that from time and time again. Even on this platform, we've had stories of parents saying, "Hey, my child is in the system, but I can't afford an attorney." So, they kind of to me lose their drive or their fight. But don't let that discourage you, because I honestly would recommend. I don't care what nobody say. An attorney is needed when you're dealing with a CPS case. I'm just
CPS part. But when you're dealing with the CPS case, depending on your, I guess your social economic status,
right.
they are required to give you an attorney.
Bono attorneys or
Yeah, the kind of
yeah.
like I can't think of the word right now, but an attorney, if you're not able to afford one, is will be provided for you. But many times they don't have the drive to fight for you.
Right, right. And again, that's so true because I've actually, I know that's true for myself. So again, you get what you pay for.
Yes.
I mean, let's just be honest, you do. And because I just know if they don't know those laws or they don't know how to fight and they're not aggressive,
Hmm.
that, they might not be as effective.
Yeah.
Because I've heard parents say, hey, I paid for just like a regular attorney,
Mhm.
but a lot of times they didn't do the work or know how to work this.
Right. Even when you pay for them.
Exactly. So
That's
that's
the reason
why
why, if anyone ever has a really good attorney, I don't care what city, what state you're in, give me that person's name. I will add them to the database in case someone in that particular area needs that type of an attorney.
Absolutely, because it makes a huge difference. And I want to say, even by us being on this platform with Attorney Vince, I think he also been practicing. He's obviously a legal counsel, but he's been doing it, what, 30 or 40 years.
Mm.
So, a plethora again of knowledge, of experience working with CPS. And if you can't get Attorney Vince, you're in a different state or whatever the case may be, definitely those are some of the things I would say. Make sure it's attorney that knows CPS laws and that they are aggressive. And with that being said, I think that's also a benefit with you, Jocelyn, because like even dealing with the school system, if you have a child that's dealing with special needs or a child that may need special accommodations or dealing with a disability, whatever that may look like, a lot of times teachers know that you don't know what your options are and they won't tell you about them if you don't speak up. So that is the beauty of having someone like Jocelyn on the show today. She will be an advocate for you to make sure that you are utilizing all those services that you, like you said, by law, have a right to.
Yes. And don't assume that because they're in the educational system that they're knowledgeable. I've walked into meetings and being
Mm,
surprised that a principal didn't know, like basic stuff.
really?
Yes, once a principal said, I told him that the child is supposed to be in the least restrictive environment, and the special ed teacher wanted to increase the hours that the child went out of the classroom. I was like, yeah, but that's against the law.
And things like that that people don't know. And I honestly, I thought that the principals and the people that come to the IP meetings, so they're not always necessarily trained neither.
No, they're not.
See that makes a huge difference because again, a lot of times the parents are expecting these, the schools to know what to do, and like you just shared, sometimes they don't even know.
We don't know.
It's like the blind leading the blind.
Kind of like, I'm sorry to say this, like police officers when they are stopping you and asking you, like, you can't do that. Yes, I can, but it's literally against the law. And I
Right.
just believe that they don't realize they don't know the law.
They don't know.
So so they're
Wow.
just doing whatever they want to do because
Right.
they hold the position of authority.
That's right. They just see that and they just leave it at that. They don't even question it. Or, that's so good though, Jocelyn. I like that you shared that. Sometimes, again, that power, knowledge is power. The more you know, to me, the better it is. So, again, Jocelyn, I thank you so much for being on the show because I know again, we're getting back. A lot of kids have returned back to school like the last 2 or 3 weeks, and you might be having some concerns with your children in class and don't even know that these services are available for you to help your child, throughout the school year. Jocelyn would be an excellent advocate for you and your kids to make sure that services that they're needing, that they are getting those services, and
Yeah.
you're not being denied just because you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of the show. Again, Jocelyn, I want to tell you also happy. Well, I know you had a birthday yesterday, so and I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I did. Thank you.
Good, good. No problem. No, thank you. Thank you for your education. Please keep doing what you're doing because a lot of our kids need these type of services. Rather, again, like we just shared, whatever it might be, your child can have some type of special needs, disability, gifted and talented, or whatever. There are programs in place that can help you. You don't have to be in this alone. And it is okay to get help. From time to time, we all need help if we be honest about it. So it's nothing wrong with that. So if this help is in place, why not use it? Okay. So again, with that being said, Jocelyn, thank you so so much for being a guest on our show. And you
Well,
have
thank you. It's been a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
absolutely no problem. We have to do it again sometime.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, everybody. Again, I say I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm hoping this information that Jocelyn have shared, it can help you in some kind of way, because I know maybe you was once like me as a mom. You have a child that's maybe dealing with a condition, but you don't know what options that may be available. Sometimes, like I said, people don't even know that there are services in school that can help your child. But again, a closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't say anything, you don't speak up about it, you don't reach out for help, nobody would never know and they can never help you. So again, take advantage of a Jocelyn that's on the show today. This station, thank God, is 24/7. If you miss something, you can always go back in and replay it. If you know somebody that may need this help while their children in school, please share it. Like, subscribe, share it, pass knowledge along, because it could be so helpful. You never know what a person may be going through, or they might need help in this way. So again, have a happy, safe Labor Day weekend. Don't you never stop fighting for your children. And remember to please always keep God first. I am your host, Latrika Jones, and have a blessed day.